Hey guys, it's Core Ross and Bomber 6 News. Today we're doing a year in review and we're focusing right down to the new operators that were released in year 8 of Rainbow Six Siege. And there'll be a whole series of videos for this year's content going over all the stuff. So we'll start with Operation Command and Force, the first season of the year, and the new operator Brava. So first, a little bit of history. When Dokkaebi was introduced to Siege and she was able to hack cameras, there was a lot of speculation that, oh, you could go further than that and actually hack like operator gadgets. So since then, I was always like, I'd love to have a hacker operator in Siege. And when they started over the last couple of years working on the accessibility options where they could change team colors and gadget colors, I was like, this is totally setting up a new operator someday. And I was just waiting patiently for my hacker attacker, and she eventually shows up. The great thing as well is there was no leaks for this operator, so when we first seen like her drone teaser pictures, I did not assume she was going to be doing any kind of hacking at all, and it was so great and surprising when we found out that she was indeed a hacker, and I was like, yes, this is perfect. So yeah, I've loved her since she came out. She has been one of my most enjoyed operators to play. Now, she's not particularly like good or anything like that, and it's more about just those rare perfect plays that come up when you hack like Capcan traps and kill a defender, or you take over a couple of Maestro cameras, or you end up stopping a defender getting back into the site by taking over Arini's laser gates. All those kind of things come together, and when they happen, it is so freaking cool. So the year really got off to an amazing start for operators for me with Brava, and I've enjoyed playing her all year, and I also like her visuals. I think she's a very good looking operator when it comes to the style. Very kind of tactical, but a little bit of casual in there too. She looks very practical, very realistic, and that's definitely how I like my operators to look. Then Season 2 Operation Dread Factor brought us Fener. Now this is an operator I do not play much at all, but I think he is exceptional. He brought something a little bit different to the defenders when it came to traps, and he's definitely got me killed a bunch of times this year. I think he's also the defender I've enjoyed fighting against the most this year. He's a challenge. He can be played quite differently and quite a lot of variety, and he can obviously change the game even when he's dead if you just happen to walk into a trap at the wrong time. And he's also a challenging operator to play right. Once you start to play this operator really well, you can be extremely powerful, but when you first jump into him and start playing him, he's pretty much rubbish to begin with. It really takes a lot of time to get him up to good speed, and then once he is, he's excellent. Great loadout too, and overall I think his visuals are kind of the polar opposite of what we had with Brava. I'm not too fussed with his look. I kind of think he looks like Dracula. However, the girls love him. They absolutely love his look. So I have to give them major props for the overall design. I think he stands out as being quite different from other operators. I think he's got a really good design. I love the big collar. Like, it's obviously very unusual, but it kind of works for his look and plays into it. I think it's brilliant. But I will say the overall gadget design I'm not too fussed about, with the whole mask kind of look and face thing. It's a bit weird, but that's a minor thing. So even though I don't play this guy at all, I do think he's a great operator, and he's definitely been one of the ones that I've loved fighting against the most this year. Moving on from that, we've got Operation Heavy Metal. This brought us Ram. So Ram is another operator that I've not played much, but there's been a few times where I've noticed the defense on the enemy team have been set up in specific ways, and I've thought, you know what, I'm going to bring Ram for this. And whenever I do bring her, I cause destruction to that defensive setup that they've got going. So I've had a lot of fun playing with Ram, but just sparingly. But it has to be her look that is freaking brilliant. I love how she looks. Like with Brava, we had the kind of tactical, casual look, whereas this, she looks like she's properly ready to go into war and fight there for years. And she just looks incredible. So very happy. Of course, the night vision goggles don't play any part in the actual gameplay and all that. And of course, all of our maps are set during the middle of the day, so it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But I do love that she just looks the way she looks. I think she's incredible. And then her gadget was just something really different. And this was a theme for the entirety of this year, where we got gadgets that were quite different from anything we've got before. Like, normally when it comes to new operators, I can kind of get, oh, it's like a combination of these two operators put together. Whereas a lot of these operators feel very different. Of course, she does something that's very normal, destroy surfaces, but in a way that is completely different from usual. So I think her gadget has been very good, and when I have used it, I've always done really well with it. It's been a lot of fun. Now moving on to Operation Deep Freeze, and we have Tuberal. Now this operator has been so far a lot of fun for me to play and play against. He's going to potentially be OP once people get up to speed on him, but we'll see how he plays out. And then just the variety of how he can be played. He can go for denial and hard breachers. He can do runouts. He can slow down enemies in different locations. He can play with teammates or he can play solo. So this guy has just been a massive, massive surprise and a very, very good one. And kind of caps off this whole year of gadgets that are very unique. Like if we even jump back to the previous year when it ended with Solus, she's basically just IQ but on defense. And we've had many operators like that since, you know, easily starting way back with, for instance, Warden basically being Glass and Nuke basically being Vigil. So we've had a lot of duplicate operators, I would say, over the years. Whereas this year, I don't think we've had a single one. I think they've all been incredibly unique. And Tubero is definitely up there as being the most unique. I think maybe they will nerf him in the future and pull back on his kind of interactions, because he literally interacts with every single operator. We even found out that an operator who was labeled as being a direct counter to this operator is now also going to be countered by Tubero, and that's Maverick, because his blowtorch is now going to take longer to burn through the frozen walls. So even an operator who had no interaction when he was first revealed suddenly is going to have one now. Now, part of this is definitely bad because Tubero could end up just being an OP operator, and it might take a while to actually rein him in and pull back all the different points. But we'll see, and that is just, you know, something we'll find out in the future. And then visual design again is very good, having that tactical look. He looks like an operator. And this continues the theme of all the operators this year looking like proper operators, with the only one being out of sync with that being Fener, who, with his actual backstory, is not an operator. So I think the overall look is perfectly fine for him. But when it comes to the rest, I think they just look like Rainbow Six operators. So very happy with the visual look, very happy with the gadgets this year. And that brings us now to the conclusion, which is, I think this is one of the best years ever for Rainbow Six Siege operators. I think they knocked it out of the park, and that's not because I play them all or anything like that. I do not play Fenrir at all, and I rarely play Ram, but I love playing against those two operators. And I feel like the whole of this year was very unique gadgets. I can't say what I would normally be able to say about operators, where I feel like they just combined a few operators together or did a attacker swap into a defender type thing. This really feels like it was an exceptionally good year for operators in Rainbow Six Siege, and they're all extremely viable. If we even go back just 1 year, we had Solus, who was very powerful, we had Grim, who was very weak, we had Sens, who was very weak, and we had a Zami, who was very strong. Whereas this year, I really feel like we got a lot of operators who are very viable and don't feel underpowered. Now, certainly it might be the case that some of them end up being overpowered and may need a couple of nerfs and stuff, but I think they only need minor adjustments. Also, the attackers this year are all viable. They're all quite exceptional at what they do, whereas last year the attackers were all terrible, whereas the defenders were all incredible. This year it feels like it's a bit more balanced. And of course, I think it's a lot easier to make a good defender than a good attacker in this game. So this year I think they've done a much better job than the previous one. We'll see how they continue into year 9 now. So yeah, when it comes to the operators of year 8 of Rainbow Six Siege, I have to give them top marks here. I think they are all exceptional, and it doesn't mean they're powerful or weak or anything like that. It just means they're all quite fun to play with, they're all quite fun to play against, and they all have their different kind of strengths and weaknesses. Like Brava, she's quite situational. You do need like attacker repick so that you know there's enough gadgets on the enemy team that you can actually be useful. Then you've got Tubero, who can be brought in pretty much any circumstance because he's so varied in what he can do that he might be useful at any time. Then we've got Ram, who's going to be picked whenever there's an objective that has a roof above it, or you're going to be going up against a lot of utility that you want to bust through. Then you've got Fener, who could be very useful for slowing down the attackers, which I think is good in the current day and age. And we see him getting banned a lot. He's actually taken his top spot from Mira as of the last balance and graphs, which were released at the start of this season. So he's done an exceptionally good job of changing up the kind of dynamics on defense. So yeah, the overall conclusion for this year when it comes to the operators is 10 out of 10. Well done to developers and exceptional work. Anyway guys, let's now open this up for discussion and leave in the comments below what you think of the year 8 operators for Rainbow Six Siege.